Force divided.
The Force is what gives the Jedi his power.
Why is the Force connecting us?
I am a Jedi.
Always two there are.
We're a dyad in the Force.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Force Diet Podcast. This is episode 49. I'm your host, Obi Sean, joined, as always, by my best bud, Jedi John. How you doing tonight?
Oh, I'm doing good. How's it going?
Oh, it is good. It is good. We've got a lot to talk about tonight. We've got a double dose with Bad Batch episode 12 and Mando episode 2. So a lot of good stuff to talk about.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun tonight. I'm excited to get into a good discussion about a few things that happened in both episodes.
For sure. And again, I'm reminded of, we talked about it last episode, the amount of content that we have to cover. And it's nice when you have a week like this where both episodes were really, really enjoyable, right? Especially after perhaps a subpar season premiere for Mando. And, you know, episode 11 was okay, but 12 and episode 2 definitely were bangers for sure.
They delivered. They delivered.
So yeah, we'll start with our Bad Batch discussion first, and then we'll finish with the Mando discussion. So for anybody listening, if there's a specific section you want to listen to, you know, there's kind of your structure for tonight's discussion. So episode 12 of the Bad Batch, The Outpost. Quick bullet point recap and go.
Man, really put me on the spot again. You love doing this.
I do.
It's all good.
I do.
So we catch up to Crosshair. What do you know? He's safe. He's alive and well. Great to hear. Crosshair gets assigned to a new assignment. Lieutenant Nolan is his commanding officer on this one. And it's pretty clear right away that he is not a fan of clones in any capacity. He's upset that there are even some in the going on the mission with him. So Crosshair is already kind of fed up with that. And then they get to the outpost. They run into Clone Commander Mayday. Hex and Veach are with him. It's very clear that this mission has been forgotten by the Empire. Like, they've asked for help, reinforcements, supplies, a little bit of everything, and their outpost is run down. There's things that don't work that should work, and you know, Crosshair seeing this, just honestly, it's a sham of an operation, and it's not anyone's fault. But there's only 3 clones left on the base, and Lieutenant Nolan's a little judgmental on the team of clones still there. Yeah, just
Slightly.
a little bit. Like, why haven't you done this? And, like, we only have 3 men left. Like, I don't know. He's like, we can't do everything anymore.
He's like, I fail to see the issue here, right? Like, it sounds like you've lost 2 pieces of the cargo that you were supposed to watch. And it's like, we have nobody to guard it.
There's an attack while they're there. Unfortunately, Hex and Veach are killed during that attack. And then Nolan says, hey, Mayday and Crosshair, you two and you two only will go find that stuff and bring it back to us. And Mayday's like, this is an operation that'll take more than that. And he's like, you two figure it out. End of discussion. And so leaves them. They realize that as they're coming up on the pirates, you know, they actually make pretty quick work of the pirates that were, I guess you'd call them raiders, that were on the planet. Dispose of them pretty quickly, but then they learn that inside the boxes of cargo are stormtrooper armor. So these guys are out there risking their lives for just armor for other troopers. Not them, but other troopers. So it's pretty disheartening. And you kind of see Crosshair start to see some of the issues in the side he joined, so to speak. Mayday's injured. Crosshair ends up carrying him back to the base. And as he's there, Nolan's like, what's going on, kind of thing. But Crosshair's like, he needs a medic immediately. Like, he's going to die from a medic. And Nolan's just like, nope, not worth it. Why would I spend those resources on him? And, well, that's the last straw for Crosshair. Turns on him, shoots him in the back. Was it in the back? Oh, no, he turned around.
No. He did call to him. He called to him,
and then
let
shot
him
him.
turn around, and then shot him in the front.
And then
So-
Crosshair is immediately detained and arrested. He wakes back up on Mount Tatnus with in the cloning facility with I guess lieutenant. Is she a lieutenant or just a researcher?
I think she's just a researcher.
Well, you're here now, and we're gonna run some tests, and that's gonna be fun. So he is gonna be a little science project now for the Empire.
Yeah, she says if you cooperate, you might survive. So, which is always reassuring to hear when you're getting a shot in your neck.
Yep. So, but that closes out the episode. Pretty cut and dry. You know, I enjoyed this episode. I think it was nice to see Crosshair again. I mean, we said it last episode, like, where the hell's Crosshair at? We haven't seen him for the majority of the season, obviously. And so it was nice to see him again, and also nice to see how the Empire is quickly running up to speed as far as their trooper program goes. Because, you know, we saw the initial wave of troopers come in during the Bad Batch show, and then it got made into an initiative by the Emperor himself, you know, this season. So it ramped up pretty quick, and they got a lot of guys in there. So pretty good stuff. What'd you think?
Yeah, no, it was. It's really interesting that the 2 episodes that we get or have gotten so far that have Crosshair in them have been the 2 most, maybe short of episode 9, the 2 most heavily centered on the state of the clones as a whole. I mean, we kind of get it right in the clone conspiracy and all that stuff, kind of understanding the decommissioning process, right? But looking more at the state of not only the clone program, but like the TK program, and how there is no mesh, right? Like there's not going to be an overlap. And Nolan says, you know, to your point, when Crosshair is like, problem, sir, about the clones coming on the mission. And he says, I don't like used equipment, right? And he says as much at the end when they're freezing to death, exhausted, you know, I'm sure hungry, everything, about, you know, served the Empire. He was expendable, just like Crosshair would be, if he didn't get up and carry on, right? And it goes back to his interactions with Rampart, and in episode 3, which is of course the last time we see him, and Rampart's view of the clones, in how he sneers at Crosshair when he asks about Cody and where Cody has gone, and as if to, again, I'll repeat myself from that episode, the fact that they would have a name would, you know, they're not worth a name, right? And so it's just becoming more and more ingrained, and in the fact that the Empire has no love lost for the clones. They have no use for them, other than mindless missions like guarding TK armor, and I'm sure other episodes other missions, excuse me, where I'm sure they would mindlessly send them to be cannon fodder. It's definitely an interesting look at Crosshair's mentality as he continues to recognize that, yeah, the side he picked, you know, which maybe in the beginning he didn't have a choice on, but the fact that he continued to serve the Empire and how he has, I think he's finally realized that he made the wrong choice. And it's unfortunate that he's alone, right? He doesn't have his brothers to even back him up anymore. And so he really is on an island. The interesting thing too about, I feel like there was a level of symbolism in this episode too, with, you know, the ice vultures circling, not only for the literal representation that the fact that you know, they were both kind of on their way out physically, but again, kind of as to represent the sort of the way that the clones are getting picked apart, picked off almost systematically right, and replaced. This episode, I think, did a lot to.
No, you're good.
I
I
lost my
think
train of
I
thought,
think
so
you're on
this
the
was
right
good.
track there. I mean, the overarching symbolism is, yeah, the vultures are always there, right? So, they're always kind of squawking, but they're always circling, and they're looking for the weakest pieces. And in this case, the clones are the weakest piece because they have no power, and we're going to continue to see again more and more of them just fall to the wayside because they have no protection. Obviously, their commanding officers don't care about them anymore, and that's that.
Yeah, and the fact that they named the clone commander Mayday in this episode is just it's very poignant, obviously, because he repeatedly called for help only to get no reply or get no response or get, in this case, I guess, a severely delayed response, right, to the point where he has literally nothing left. And there's an interesting conversation between Mayday and Crosshair, right, about good soldiers following orders, and he says, and for what, right? Like what have they gotten out of it, right? They're being cast aside, they're being replaced, decommissioned, call it what you forgotten, and so they've done all of this for a republic that no longer exists, for an empire I'm sure they didn't even want, right? And for the ones that are still around that are of free thinking, which at this point it's probably most of them, they're realizing now the tool, that they were just a tool, right? That they were never going to be more than that. I can't imagine that as, if that were to happen to me, like in real life, right? Like if I was a pawn only to be cast aside by, the group or the entity that I was supposed to be helping, right? You thought you were doing the right thing, and you gave your time, your blood, sweat, and tears, and then it's just like, yeah, thanks, see you later. Like I can't I can't imagine that myself.
There's a level of frustration there, right? Like just the pure fact that they know they're out, and not just out, but they're looked as if they're useless at this point. So
yeah, and I didn't want to. I guess I don't know if I wanted to go down this route or not, but I mean, you think about our troops, right? The systems that are supposed to be set up to care for them post service. That I can't tell you how many times I see in the news the various agencies set up that routinely fail to support our troops, right? And or first responders who, you think back to those who were there, on 9/11, right? And those who continue to deal with health problems and the government standing in the way of countless care packages and bills and stuff like that to support them, and how it seems routinely, I guess, in our real lives, that we do let down those who have served us, and the travesty that is. I feel like in a way this cartoon kind of in a quote unquote safe way illustrates some of those shortcomings that I know others deal with in our everyday life.
yep, absolutely.
The other thing, right? Transitioning. The other thing to come out of this episode, right, is that last scene where Crosshair wakes up on the operating table or whatever you want to call it. And where do you think, or what do you think the Empire is wanting to do with him now, right? That maybe they didn't do before, right? They left him in service. I guess they were just waiting for him to either screw up or maybe actually die.
I think
what do you think?
There was some kind of mutation in him that allowed him for a special skill, right? And marksmanship is not a skill to be overlooked, especially when you're building an army. So I think They're either going to use him to try to create more similar to him. I mean, they are still trying to clone, and they have all the cloning equipment and stuff like that. So they could be trying to clone him, potentially for like a special ops TK unit or something like that. It'll be interesting. I think that's kind of like the route that we're looking at, though. I don't know why else he would be there for them, other than they want to study what happened in his bloodstream and his mind that is allowing him to, be the best shot.
So I guess my follow-up question to that would be, why did they wait till now to do it? Because, well, they've had him, in the ranks. They could have easily transferred him. They could have, when he was recovering from his time on the landing platform after the end of season 1, they could have easily sent him there, right? Because we know it exists at that time and they're doing stuff there at that time. Why would they wait, aside from plot reasons, to do it now versus, I don't know, months ago?
He was most likely,
or even after he first got brought on.
He was an effective tool to be used. And Rampart at first, had him going on all kinds of missions. So, when you're an effective tool, you don't decommission it because, Jason Bourne and all.
No. Right. Yeah. That's a good point. And speaking of tools, during the raid, right, they sabotage the landing craft that the crew come in on, right, and you actually see Crosshair miss his shot, right. He hits the guy or the person fleeing, to the point that he tracks them, but the way that he flinches is I don't know if you thought this or not, but I almost thought like something either triggered maybe in his chip or maybe it's just like his age getting to him that affected his ability after that.
Yeah, I don't know. There was like a flash shot, right? He got flashed, and then my idea was that it triggered something. Don't know what that is, and whether or not it's a skill set downgrade or if it's just age or whatever else, but something got triggered, and the last time we saw him take a big flash of something in his face, it was an engine. So
that's true. Yeah as far as what his appearance there at the end could mean, short of him being cloned himself, if that is what happens, the question would be, okay, well, where are these clones in the later stories? Is it going to be this new group of units that we've never seen before? Maybe. I am sure that there are TK, marksmen or sniper stormies, basically. I don't recall seeing many of them in shows or what have you. So it may just be them wanting to maybe try and sequence to see if maybe they can salvage any of the original donor material, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know if we're going to end up getting the use revealed at the end of the year, at the end of the season, but I would not be surprised if at some point Omega gets captured.
No,
she gets taken.
You think
to
Omega's
Mount
gonna get captured? No.
I do think that.
Weird.
I do think
That's
that.
never
Right?
happened.
Okay, bear with me, right? And so they will of course go to try and break her out, try and rescue her, right? Which that would be quite the mission to undertake with 3 of them. But maybe they call in Rex and they call in Cody and they kind of call in a few favors, Echo, and they come across Crosshair on the base too, and it's the time you keep loving the redemption arc, the reintroduction arc, and after watching this last episode, I think Crosshair might be of a mind finally to say, F the Empire.
I'm mad he didn't kill Rampart. Like, I really thought he was gonna kill Rampart.
I mean, there still could be a chance. I mean, who knows where Rampart is right now?
Unlikely he's in prison.
I mean,
Unlikely.
But anyway, that's true. That's true. And so yeah, I forget what the last episode's called. I think it was like it was called something like escape plan or
Plan 99.
oh, Plan 99, right? Like, and we were talking about how it's probably the escape clause for the squad. So if they have to break him out along with Omega, and we only have again 5 episodes, 13, 14, 15, 16. No, we got 4 episodes. Sorry. It'd be a lot to do in the last 4 episodes, but
They've done more with
they
less
definitely can do it.
time.
Accurate. Especially if they decide to make the last couple episodes like 45 or 50-minute long episodes, they would have effectively plenty of time to do that. So, anything else as far as the episode itself?
I got nothing.
No? Cool. So overall, your grades for the Outpost.
Yeah, still kind of. It was a good episode. I enjoyed the episode. Got a lot out of it as far as development of stuff with clones and Empire and TK program. But I would still only give it like an 8. You?
Yeah, I'm in probably that again. I always tend to grade things I think a little bit higher than you, anyways. So I'm going to give it probably an 8.5, 8.6, and mainly because I always like the deeper. I used air quotes there. The deeper episodes, the ones that are more well written or at least more dialogue heavy, right? Especially between some of the main characters, and that's something that I feel like sometimes is missed with the broader batch. I mean, again, we get that in episode 9, right, when it's just Tech and Omega. But when it's the crew, right, you don't really get those moments, right? And so to just have Crosshair in this episode, similar to just Crosshair and Cody in episode 3, it gives you a little bit more to build on, a little bit more emotion, a little bit more depth to the characters. So yeah, I would probably give it like an 8.5 or thereabouts. IMDB, going to our IMDb reviews, 1,900 ratings, 9.1 out of 10. So this is
Second highest of the series?
I think it's
Or
I
the
think
episode or the season.
It is tied for the highest with Truth and Consequences. So episode 8 it is tied with. So yeah, 9.1 out of 1,900. So that's pretty solid. There are actually 16 user reviews for this episode, which is actually
double the average.
Far more than normal. So just scan through these pretty quick. 10 out of 10, special episode. 10 out of 10, maybe the most emotionally animated episode ever. 10 out of 10, powerful experience. Posey fan, 10 out of 10. This whole episode is a metaphor for what the clones have become. They've become relics of the past. No one in the Imperial Authority gives the clones more than a glance of respect.
I'm a little concerned on how it gets a 10 out of 10. I mean, it's your own rating and stuff. I get that, but like we already knew that the Empire didn't care about the clones. It was very evident that was already a thing. Mm-hmm. I guess just emotionally connecting with Crosshair, realizing these things, I guess earned it the emotion. But I don't know. I've seen more emotional animation made in Star Wars, specifically Rebels and Clone Wars. So it's a hard level to say that it's the most emotionally written episode in animation for Star Wars, because I don't think it's even close to that. But to each their own, as always.
Yeah, I think again it really just comes down to the character development for Crosshair. I also saw somebody, I think it might have been on Instagram, could have been Twitter, I don't remember. But the callback to season 1 where after they had been captured and Crosshair's walking into the cell and Hunter goes, where are the regs? And Crosshair's like, and since when did you start caring about the other clones, whatever? And how that's now, he's there now, right? It just took him a lot longer to get to where the other guys are, or were. 10 out of 10, Mayday is Bay Day. 10 out of 10, in my experience, respect is something to be earned. They said the show earned my respect a long time ago. 10 out of 10. Pieces are falling into place. 9 out of 10. We were good soldiers. We followed orders, and for what? So again, that back and forth between Crosshair and Mayday, I do think it does say a lot about not just those two characters, but where every clone is probably at this point in the story. 10 out of 10. 10 out of 10. Are there any bad ones? The worst review is an 8 out of 10.
There's not many bad ones.
The worst review is an 8 out of 10.
Yeah.
So from Badger, who we talked about in one of our last episodes. So basically says the best episodes so far have been the ones that have contained Crosshair. So, and short of again, Truth and Consequence, which had Palpatine in it, had the whole squad, breaking things out, and Rampart getting escorted out. I mean, yeah, the two best episodes since were just Crosshair on his own. And I think it's a testament to D. Baker's voice acting, and being able to bring that emotion to an animated character. And again, to your point, we've seen it before in other animated shows, but this series has a lot fewer moments where you can have kind of the edge taken off through dialogue, right? Rebels, you kind of get more breaks, right, in between, going from mission to mission when you have the squad. There's even Clone Wars, for all the chaos, right? You still have slower moments. I really don't feel like we have that as much with the Bad Batch. So that might be the difference.
For me, it's one of those situations where you knew it was going to pop eventually. So this was the episode that popped, which is satisfying to see, obviously. But, I mean, yeah, for me, I'm like, I was waiting for this episode to happen. I didn't know what lieutenant was going to get shot, obviously, until I met him this episode. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, oh, this is the guy. He's gonna break. Yeah, I also didn't see Crosshair ending up at the cloning facility versus a jail cell. Mm-hmm. So,
well, I mean, frankly, they're probably one and the same at this point. I mean, he's not getting out, right? Like, unless he's broken out, he's never leaving that mountain. They're not gonna be like, oh yeah,
right.
You're reformed. Go back out there. Now maybe they're gonna tweak his chip. We talked about that. I don't know, at the beginning of the season. Maybe they tweak his chip to be hyper aggressive or one of the believers, right? That we saw in that early episode with the sniper clone. So maybe he becomes a believer through all of this. So yeah, good. That I guess will bring us to our close on the Bad Batch. Pivot to Mando. Pivot to Mando episode 2, The Mines of Mandalore.
I think this episode nailed it. Can't wait to get into it. We went back to Tatooine. What do you know? Picked up R5 from Peli, looking for that IG-11 memory cord or memory board still, but Jawa said that's a no-go. Mm-hmm. As Peli and the Jawas are scamming the hell out of people on Boonta Eve.
That was so good. That was so funny. It reminded me of the Jawa and Obi-Wan. He's like, if you're at least going to sell me my parts back, can you at least clean them first? Right? Like
yeah. Paint them a different color and put them back on.
That's fantastic.
Really, really good stuff, though. It was very funny. We get to see Grogu jump out of the N1 to Peli and, do his lovely banter. I think he said my name. Yeah, maybe. It is what it is. But no, but he does end up leaving the planet with R5 as a droid that is stable enough to go.
Built for adventure.
It is funny. Built for adventure. You do hear Peli mention that, like, yeah, we know you were a hero to the rebellion, blah, 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 blah. As far as we know in the Star Wars universe, R5 didn't do anything. But in books, he actually basically self-destructed himself a little bit so R2 could get because R2 was on the mission. That was in the From a Certain Point of View book. There was a whole chapter on R5 and his sacrifice to get R2 out of the Jawa
Hmm.
control.
Which,
So
speaking of that, did you see that
cool
there's going to
book.
be a Return of the Jedi certain point of view book coming out?
That's
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
That's good. That's great. I love those.
Not to derail, but
I enjoy that. I enjoy that book though. That book. I mean, every chapter is a different character from a certain point of
mhm.
view. So pretty cool. Anyway, we fly over to Mandalore. As Din's going in, the magnetic field has been messed with, so no communications off planet once you're there, and he can't receive anything either. So right away, you kind of have that inkling that, well, there's gonna be problems. And as he's flying in there, he is teaching Grogu like where everything is. He mentioned Concordia, where Death Watch was located after they were exiled from Mandalore during the time of the Clone Wars, and he does say that's where I grew up.
Mhm.
So we know that he was on Concordia also, which is cool. They get to the surface. Sorry, he deploys R5, says go find out if I can breathe or not, and R5 quickly finds himself in trouble, and so Mando pressurizes his helmet and says, "Okay, I'm going to go out and find him." Runs into trouble. Go figure. Man, that darksaber's heavy. Um, really struggling with that thing. He's got to figure that out. But runs into the Alamites. Well, we find out later they're Alamites. But he takes care of them, dispatches them, realizes that the atmosphere is not poisoned,
Mhm.
so he can breathe. And so he gets Grogu out. They fly down to the mines. He runs into some more trouble um, among critters and everything else they are walking past. He gets scooped up by some mechanical thing. There's a bunch of people online saying, "Oh, it's just like General Grievous." I'm like, that does not remind me of General. I mean, not at
Not
all,
at
really.
all.
But
No.
I see,
Mm-mm.
I see where they were coming from because it was part an organic life form. Obviously, the eyeball and everything inside, but I'm not really sure why people were bringing up Grievous the entire time because it didn't remind me of him.
Well, and
Um,
he's snared in like the body, like the mech body, right? And then the critter itself
yeah,
crawls out of the trap, basically. And I will say that that was a solid jump scare because I was not ready for that. Um,
oh
sta-
yeah, not expecting
staring at
that.
the helmet, and then all of a sudden he gets swallowed up by uh, by this thing. So yeah, that was a
Yeah,
solid jump scare.
and Star Wars loves their rotisserie moments. So built a fire, had them rotating, and then Grogu decides he's going to try to help. Very nice of him. He's not quite strong enough to get him out of the metal cage, or maybe just can't figure out how to do
Hmm.
it. But he, quickly runs away. You see him with an Alamite on the way out. Well, not just with the Alamite, but the other critters that were after him.
Hmm.
But he gave the Alamite the F around and find out business. And
Force
Alamite found
force
out.
push.
Force pushed him
I
out.
it I
Um,
jump real quick. I will say that this continues the trend of things that the trailer ruins, right? Like
yeah,
I really wish that that moment had not been shown. Like, yeah, it was cool in the trailer, and I understand it's for hype, but you remove the coolness factor because everyone has seen it 25 times. Like, there's
yeah,
no peril whatsoever because the thing gets thrown out because we've seen it, and so
yeah.
I wish that one had been skipped.
Saved.
Yes.
Yeah, I wish it would have been saved. It would have been cool. But he jumps back in the N1. He basically is given R5 the business. He's like, I want to go there, like right there. I want to go to that moon. Um, and then they fly off planet and go back to Bo-Katan. And I tell you what, I think Bo-Katan was ready to fight Din. She's
Hmm.
like, I'm gonna get rid of this guy once and for all now. So it was gonna be an ugly visit if it had been Din. Um, but we get to see Bo-Katan load up Grogu and R5 in the gauntlet and
That
take
was
off.
awesome.
And that gauntlet
That was
starfighters,
awesome.
it looks great.
So good.
It looks so good. And then you get Bo-Katan taking them onto the planet. It's very different, between Din. He's feeling not nostalgic about it. He's saying that this is where our people are from. Like, they were here. This is what happened. But Bo-Katan lived there, like actually lived there. Like, is talking about it very differently. So, um, pretty cool, and it shows too because she's very knowledgeable, right? Like she knew exactly where the Almite was gonna be. Like she saw it and she knew exactly what it was. Versus Din was walking through and said, oh, "I'm just walking through a cave," and gets bum rushed. But Bo-Katan was more prepared, handled herself well, took care of business pretty quickly. Um, and then, yep, she comes face to face with the mechanical creature. Um, oh, this is all while Din's blood's getting sucked out like he's a Capri Sun.
Human Capri Sun.
Like, yeah, just got the needle jabbed in him and a pump machine was pumping blood out of his body. For what reason, we don't know. We don't know what the robot needed the blood for, but something. But Bo shoots the pump. That way it stops, and then gets into a fight with the mechanical beast. She gets her hands on the Darksaber, and then starts going to town. She knows how to wield it. She's wielded it before. She's very clear and knows what she wants out of it. So I mean,
It looked
good.
great. Like her, yeah, the way it's great to see the polar opposite handling of the sword between Din and her and her mastery with it versus him. It is clear that she is of a clear mind in how to wield the weapon for sure. It was awesome.
Yeah, I think the big thing too is I mean, hopefully as Din progresses throughout the season, he starts to take on that leadership mentality that she very much has had her whole life, but he needs that. I think that's one of the keys for him to kind of grow that confidence level. Like I am in charge. This is my weapon. This is what I want to do with it, whatever it is. Because even Moff Gideon, wielded the saber pretty well. So I think it's just that clear mind and that confidence of being the leader. So she nurses him back to health. Well, I'll say back to health, but really just, gives him some food, lets him rest a little bit, wakes him up, gives him something that he's never had before. And she's like, I've ate this my whole life.
It was
kind of
pog
thing.
soup.
Pog soup. Pog soup. Yep. And not the 90s circular cardboard pog.
Well, it was interesting too because she
no slammers.
No slammers here. It's interesting too because she says it's ironic that he hasn't had it, which maybe which I don't understand why that's ironic. Maybe that has something to do with the watch.
The fact that I think that the fact that part of it's that I took it as it's ironic because he's holding the Darksaber and he's supposed to lead the people of the Mandalorian race, and he hasn't had things that are very common in the Mandalorian culture.
There you go. That's probably it.
So that's what I got out of it. Anyway, he's like, I still have to go find the waters. So she's like, well, you're never going to find them, especially in your condition kind of thing, with the wreckage that is the city. So they get down to the mines. He's like, this place looks way older, and she starts going through the lore of everything. They get a little bit into family about her growing up, going into the waters. It was all for show. It's basically like how she didn't really believe in it all. It was really just for show for the subjects kind of thing. But then she gets into her father, and Mando says like he sounds like a great man. I would have loved to have met him, kind of thing. And she's like, he was a great man. He died trying to protect Mandalore. And Din just stops, looks at her, and just says, "This is the way." And it's very emotional. This is the way, because he's absolutely showing the respect that any Mandalorian would deserve, protecting, like if they die, protecting their home, because that quite literally is in the creed. They are to protect their home from any invader, kind of thing. So cool moment. Grogu kind of stops and does his little, stare contest with Bo, and she's like, "What are you looking at?" Like, because Bo, I'm waiting. Well, we'll get into it, I'm sure, but I'm waiting for it to the switch to flip, so to speak. But she starts saying like, "Hey, here's the waters. I told you not much to look at, but over here's the big plaque that says, oh, and within these waters, you know, all the folklore about the mythosaur being there and all that stuff, and um, yeah, he walks in the water, he starts reciting the creed, and he gets. This is a good question. Did he get sucked
He
down,
fell.
or did he just fall because of the weight
No, he fell off the drop.
off the
He
ridge?
fell off the drop.
You think?
Yes,
You think
I think
so?
so.
I think he got pulled. I think he got
No,
pulled.
no, because Mythosaur Boy was like passed out when they come back up. Like what he grabbed him. He was just like he reaches up, grabs him, pulls him down, and then goes back to sleep. Like
Yeah, good connection. He wasn't asleep. He was just chilling in the water. Good connection with Mando, pulls him down. Here's my argument. Okay. We're not quite done with the recap, but here's my argument for the pull down effect, right?
okay,
So I think he got pulled down because he was all the way down at the bottom, and he down there. Things had settled around him already, and Bo-Katan was jetpacking through the water to get to him,
hmm
and she jumped in immediately after him, and he was already on the ground. Things had settled. He was too deep. I mean, she was. You're telling me that he sunk faster than she was propulsing herself towards him. That's the argument I have.
well,
Anyway.
yeah, I think it's more just plot reasoning, right? Because you had to go deep enough to get the reveal of the
Yeah.
mother effing mythosaur.
As they were coming back up.
The mother effing
Yeah.
mythosaur. The mother effing mythosaur.
Anyway, yeah. On the way back up, though, the lights are on, and we see this great big tusk, and it was so great. I mean, it was freaking awesome to see, obviously, and it was so fun. I was on the couch with my wife watching the episode, and as soon as he started walking into the water, I'm like, we're gonna get a mythosaur, because she was talking about it. I'm like, we're gonna. She's like, what are you even talking about? I'm like, just wait, it's gonna be great. And yeah, sure enough, coming out of the water, Bo-Katan obviously freaks out. Like, that's not a good thing to see when you're underwater. So gets them both out of there, and then we're left with them on on the steps of the altar,
Mm-hmm.
basically, walking into the waters. And it was a
It was a holy shit.
Oh,
It
shoot
was a holy
moment.
shit moment.
yeah, well, the whole yeah, yeah. But yeah, great episode. I really enjoyed it. It was definitely a needed episode after week one. A lot of blowback on week one, but this one was definitely received better by everybody, I think. And it had, who doesn't want to see a mystical creature that we've heard a lot about,
Mhm.
but now we got one in live action already. That's pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, that. So I know you said that you were kind of expecting it because of what she was saying. I generally watch the episodes with captions on, and for some reason I didn't do it this time because I didn't hear half the stuff she was saying because she was kind of talking as he was kind of walking in and reciting the creed. So maybe I just wasn't paying attention because, well, I don't do that sometimes and completely missed that because yeah, when the tusk and the eyeball popped out there, I was like, yeah, I kind of lost it watching it, and I was watching it on my
Just a little grunt too. Just a little grunt.
I was watching it on my lunch break,
Mm.
and I wanted to yell something, but then I was like, my coworker in the office next to me probably doesn't want to hear me curse right now. But yeah, that reveal was top notch reveal. Mikey the Mythosaur. That's what I'm gonna call him. I'm gonna call him Mikey the Mythosaur. Unless you have, and you're welcome to call him whatever you want. You can give him a cool nickname, pet nickname. But until he's tamed, and ridden, he's gonna be Mikey to me.
Oh, you think we're gonna get a rider? I think we're gonna get a
At
rider too.
some
so.
point, we're gonna get a rider. whether that's this season or not, I don't know. You can't have the mythosaur and then not ride it, right?
I mean,
Right.
I truly believe that that's accurate.
So, do you think it's going to happen? I mean, we can talk mythosaur now, or we can go back and kind of talk the rest of the episode and then talk
No,
mythosaur.
let's just jump right into myth. I think mythosaur is
It's the exciting,
the big
that's
one. So let's just
it's
talk
the exciting
talk it
topic.
out.
So, is it happening this season? You think?
The Rancor happened in less time, so
This is
I can see
this is not the same. This is next level beast. Like like there's the the purgles, right? The whales, right? And you had the space whales.
and nobody touches
right?
those except for Ezra.
Exactly. You have the Rancor, right? And I don't know any other sort of mystical creature that's even on this level. Like, this is next level Star Wars creature. Like, there has to be some sort of special like, you have to take care to handle the mythosaur correctly, because we've never seen this before in canon. So
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's gonna be this. I mean, the Empire's gonna show up at some point here. So, well, based on the trailer at least, we had interceptors. We had things that are gonna happen. So now I don't know when that's gonna happen, but I expect, because I know I sent you the message the day after. I'm like, so Grogu's gonna ride it, right?
yes.
The one true Mandalorian.
Well, and I scoffed at it because so there's part of my brain that's like, that's how it's going to happen, right? Because reasons. And then my other half is like, it needs to be like this, or again, this is how my head wants, right? Versus probably what the story writers are doing, right? And I have to try and keep them mutually exclusive, right? Because I can't get mad over here because this side of my brain didn't get what it wanted. But yeah, if Grogu ends up writing it, which he probably will, I will be a little bit disappointed personally.
So here's my thing. I think it's going to be a tag team. I think it's going to be a Mando and like Grogu on the shoulder because of his ability to communicate with the animals, like he did with the Rancor. Like, he calmed the Rancor. So I think he's going to help.
Okay, so what if, and humor me here for a second, who else do we know that has tamed a beast to this point that's in this general sphere, right? It would be, aside from Danny Trejo, Boba Fett, right?
Boba,
right, so
yeah.
Boba. And non-canonically, Boba Fett is the only...
But even him, he didn't really.
What's that?
But even him, he struggled with the Rancor, though. He still didn't really control it fully.
Okay. But, we have the holiday special, right? And we get, multicolored Boba riding a mythosaur. And obviously that doesn't count, right? That's been scrubbed, right? Nobody likes to talk about the holiday special for multiple reasons. But what if the tag team, right, as you put it, is Din and Boba? And yeah, I mean, I guess the handoff would be, you could hand it off to Grogu as kind of the Mandalorian. And I think we even talked about that, kind of looking forward towards season 4 and what could be, right? And that Grogu could be the Mandalorian. I can just envision Grogu riding him, and it looks really goofy to me, right? Like, because of the puppet and like when he does the flip out at the N1. And I recognize too that this is going to be CGI when this happens. So you can make it look good, decent. But, some of the practical effects are a little stiff, right? As you expect with a puppet. And so I can just envision it, and it doesn't look right to me personally. Like him yippee-ki-yaying with the Darksaber, I almost half expect him to have a cowboy hat on, and maybe wearing Boba's spurs, and clicking into his giddy up, mythosaur. And
Yeah,
I don't, I don't know.
it'd be good.
Now,
I don't know. I do think Din is following in that Mandalore the Great um, prophecy.
mhm.
So, so I think it'll be Din, and I think it'll be the uniting of the Mandalorian people.
Mhm.
So pretty interesting. I'm excited for it. I mean, the next question is like, how does he prove that he was in the waters to the armor?
Mhm. Well,
Because that's his next task. Now he's got to prove that he was actually there.
well. So here's the thing. So Bo saw it. She was there. She saw everything, and I recognize too that probably, uh, House Kreese and the Children of the Watch. There's probably some friction there, right? And I think she even says as much when Mando mentions her in Book of Boba, right? And meeting Bo-Katan Kryze and all that stuff. And so, but I feel like to some extent she would carry some weight in the realm of Mandalore. And I mean, yeah, she can't you can't really bring back mine water, right? But she saw it and he saw it, and I don't know. There's got to be some vouching there that I feel like you could sign off on. If nothing else, they could bring back the plaque. They could rip the plaque from.
I don't know if you disgrace
Well, who else?
a
Who else is
historical.
going there?
I
And
don't
they could
know.
always put it back.
I
They
don't
could
know.
always put it back, right? They just borrow it. They just borrow it.
They should write a sign that says "Mythosaur" inside. Don't enter.
Draw one of those crudely drawn, warning signs. But seriously though, they could take the sign off of the post and be like, "I literally stood at the waters. Here's the sign." Right?
Look, I stole the sign.
It's like a kid stealing the hood ornament off of a car to prove that they've done something to it. Same sort of thing. But that would be undoubtedly like you couldn't replicate that. You couldn't fake it. And it would prove that you were literally at the entrance.
At the site. Yeah.
And so,
no, you're not wrong.
I mean, the armorer would have to be pretty thick to be like, you know what? I see the sign. And it opened up my eyes. I see the sign.
I saw this. One.
But yeah, she'd have to be pretty thick to be like, yeah, no, there's no way you took 4 steps into the water. And then you'd be like, yeah, and then I fell down a chasm for another, 1,000 feet, but we won't talk about that. So
Ignore that. Just ignore that.
yeah. So the mythosaur kind of trumps a lot of the other discussions in this episode, right?
Hey, you don't want to talk about the Boonta Eve callback from episode 1?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It is the exact same celebration that the pod race that Anakin won is being held in. So that's a pretty cool callback.
Yeah, it's a nice little Easter egg. Obviously, the R5 continuation of the Easter egg is cool. I do wish that they would have given him. I understand why they gave him R5, and we knew he had to give him R5. But if they'd have given him that BD unit instead, which would have been a way better,
Cool.
a way better sort of adventurer, right? But I also feel like giving them R5 here was kind of the senior send-off, right, for the droid that didn't get to have his moment in the original trilogy, right? He gets his time to shine.
He still gets it.
So to speak.
He gets his adventure. He was built for it, after all. Yeah, I mean, it was a cool moment there. I did like how Pelly asked, like, "Oh, why are you here this time? Is it to deal with Boba Fett or the Hutts?" And so the twins are still out there, obviously. So I think part of that's just setting up Boba Fett season 2.
Yeah.
So
I've seen a lot of speculation on that for sure.
Yeah, gotta leave that in there. But yeah, no. Overall, the rest of the episode is just that connection that Bo and Din are gonna connect. I mean, I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it. I think they're gonna buddy up, and it's gonna unite people. That's what's gonna. Yeah.
Like, what do you mean?
Yeah,
But what do you
yeah.
mean buddy up? Like
buddy up.
Like,
I think you
all
know
right,
exactly what I mean.
are you shipping Bo and Din? Like, are you as
I think so. I think I might. I think I
you're a
might.
Bo and Din stan? Oh God, we're
I
gonna
I think
we're gonna
so.
have to
I
we're gonna
think
have to change a Twitter handle to Jedi John is a Bo and Din stan. You know, for the
yeah.
next couple months.
I truly don't want to see that happen because I think it's better if there's like that tension, like I still want to kill this guy because he stole my sword, um, thing. But yeah, I think especially down in the mines when he was explaining his point of view on things and also respected to her family and what they did to sacrifice themselves, I think she realized like, no, he is a true Mandalorian. Like he is a believer. He is a like I can get behind his I can get behind
Mm-hmm.
him. So kind of interesting there.
Yeah, and the
So we'll see what happens.
yeah, I mean that's a good point. That she recognizes his potential leadership qualities, even if maybe he hasn't exactly figured them out yet, and yeah, their mutual respect for each other might over time develop uh, to that point, yeah, where they could work together. I really hope they don't like force them together from a romantic perspective. Uh, that doesn't seem in line with his character at
I mean,
all.
anytime Star Wars adds romance to the story, it always goes well.
Yeah, well, and they tried that right with in season one when the village people were
Oh
trying to
yeah,
get him
with the
to
village.
hang out, right, and stay behind. I just don't think that that's his mo, right? That's not really him. So, but from a team up perspective, I could definitely see that. Again, her house, her name carries weight, even if some people have fled or left.
Abandoned her
Yeah,
cause
left
for now.
because
Yeah.
of the lack of the dark saber, right? I mean, if they come out riding a damn mythosaur, nobody's going to care about the sword, and that's I think kind of where it's going too. Is that there's all this belief in the sword, and the sword holds this great power and everything like that. But the mythosaur trumps, like it's the trump card, right?
Yeah, because the Mythosaur was 1st.
From a leadership perspective.
Dark Saber didn't come out till the Vizsla.
Yeah, Tar Vizsla, and
Tar Vizsla. Yep.
so the mythosaur is kind of the get out of jail free card with the whole who owns the dark saber baloney. Like I've seen people on social.
I wrote a Mythosaur.
I've seen people on social media go, yeah, the robot critter beat Din and then took the dark saber, and then Bo beat him, so she's the rightful heir to the dark saber. It's like, can we not do that right now? I mean, technically, if you want to be technical about it, right? The Emperor was the rightful owner of the dark saber. You know, if you want to go back to the Clone Wars, I did a whole stupid Twitter thread about it. You know, and the fact that he completely annihilated Maul in combat while Maul was using the dark saber.
Yeah.
So, you know, nobody wants to remember that. Anyways, it's not the point. The point is that the mythosaur.
Din owns a dark saber.
Yeah, exactly.
But Mythosaur is way more important.
Bingo. One other thing that I've seen people throwing around too on social media, I want to get your thoughts on. When Grogu does the somersault out of the N1 and babbles, did he say his first words? This is breaking. You know, this is
really deep
It is
stuff
intense
we're getting
news.
into now.
We have to discuss this.
Ooh. You know, I don't know if that was his first words or not, but on screen they may have been. But
Yeah.
yeah, he almost said Pelly, I think. So first time I've heard him say a name.
It's like any new parent, right? The second your child starts to mumble, you're like, it's a word. It's a word, and then you hold on to that
Yeah,
forever.
it's kind of funny because, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think that might be. Din didn't seem too impressed by it, so I don't think it was. I don't think it was his first words, but, I think it was something. I think it was probably Pelly. But yeah,
Yeah,
good for them.
again, something that Din does not concern himself with. He's on a mission,
No.
you know, from his Mandalorian god.
The other thing was, going back to Bo-Katan, I just forgot to mention it. Like, definite space mom vibes, like, and she was using like, oh, your dad, Din's the dad.
Yeah, she's the mom that can just outright kick ass.
Mhm.
It was interesting too. The what did you think your dad was the only Mandalorian, right? And I don't
Mhm.
know what they told you about the Jedi or whatever, but there was a time where we all fought. We actually got along, and I I think that's also just it's a nice reference, right? And to the fact that Grogu and her and by extension the Mandalorians could coexist, can work together despite their uh, sort of long-seated
Differences.
hatred for each other, right? Um,
Well, and also, it was very interesting because you go to the beginning of the episode, Mando showing Grogu things, and now 2 episodes in a row trying to teach him about the Mandalorian way and what's important and
mhm,
why it's important. And then you get Bo giving a history lesson on what happened on Mandalore, relationships with other people, and it's so Grogu is getting a lot of all sides of the not just history but culture of Mandalore
mhm.
and Mandalorian culture. So it's just kind of interesting that he's just getting it from two very different perspectives the whole episode. So
Yeah, he's gonna get a good blend of the cultures. The other thing, so there's two other things I want to talk about real quick before uh, we jump into the
the
reviews, yeah, and the
ratings.
ratings. One of them is more of an Easter egg, I guess. It's not even really an Easter egg, but if you look close enough, the Almites or Alamites gave me mad. Have you seen the original Time Machine movie from like the 1960s?
No.
Okay,
Mm-mm.
so there it's the time that he jumps ahead to, like it's the Eloys are like the humans who live above ground, and the Morlocks are these subterranean, uh, well, humanoids that basically kidnap and inevitably eat the Eloi. They feed on the Eloi, and I swear the Alamites were mad, giving me mad Morlock vibes, because they're the same color, the appearance wise. And on the way home from Connor's soccer practice tonight, actually, I thought, this takes place a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. The space Morlocks end up being the actual Morlocks all the way in the future, right?
They
They
could.
could. So
They could. It's possible.
I thought that was fun, but the we touched on it in the recap, the robotic thing, um,
Mm.
being that there is some form of or was, because it's dead now, some form of organic uh, matter to it as far as its sentient nature. At least it appeared sentient. Maybe the eyeball was just sort of a scan, but what on earth would a robot need with blood? Like what like I,
Yeah, I don't
what would
know.
it use it for? Um, there's nothing down there that it's, I mean, gonna feed it to, right? I mean, you might as well just feed the whole being to it, right? Um, it's almost as if there is some sort of living component to that creature, um, and he would almost use that. Before we started recording, I joked that it's like the mummy, where uh, he slowly absorbs enough to become whole again, one eye at a time. I don't know. Uh, it was just a very interesting concept that, almost again as if to suggest that there's some sort of organic being here. So
Yeah, the only thing I could think of is it was getting it to like barter with other organisms still left on the planet, but I don't know. Like trade fodder for something. I don't know. It didn't make sense to me there.
mhm.
So I don't really have a whole lot.
It seems a little too random to just be like, of all the things they could have picked, right? Like that's the
Hmm.
thing. So it's you know thinking back to Maul and how he ended up surviving, in the Clone Wars. I wonder if it's some sort of real life version of the, or not real life, but live action version of that situation. Which, if it is, then it would have to be a Sith of some sort, right? To be able to, although I guess Grievous wasn't really a Sith at the point that he transferred to Mech, but I don't know. It was bizarre, to say the least, and I'm curious if there's literally anything that comes out of it, whether it's next season or I don't know if there's some other show that would talk about it, but it just seemed very bizarre.
Yeah, no, I agree. Weird.
Right. So let's move to our ratings and the IMDb feedback. So what would you give this episode?
Oh, I'm in the 9.5.
Okay.
I think we got good backstory. I think we got good backstory with Mando and Grogu. I think we got great development with Bo-Katan and Grogu, and then Bo-Katan and Din, and then we got a Mythosaur. So I'm highly satisfied.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I mean, I'd probably be a little bit lower, but not much. Maybe like 9.2, 9.3. I will agree with some of the critique that I've seen with it being too dark, and
honestly, I didn't feel
somewhat
like that.
like there, and maybe it was just my viewing platform made it kind of muddled.
Yeah. I mean, I watched it in my living room, in the dark, so that probably helped a little bit. But I also made it through Game of Thrones final season, and those episodes were way more dark than this Mandalorian episode was. So I had no problem with the Mandalorian episode. I can see the critique, but I didn't have any problem.
Yeah, and again, that's really kind of nitpicky, right? That's just me kind of being nitpicky. Yeah, for many of the same reasons you said, Mythosaur, Darksaber, Bow, Gauntlet. I would say 9.2.
Dude, Bo was so good with that Darksaber.
I feel like we were like it was over too soon, right? Like he was just like, and it's over, and you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I made real quick work of that.
I would watch more of that. All right, so transitioning real quick to the IMDb stuff. 7,700 reviews, ratings, not reviews.
Just four times.
Sorry, not sorry.
Four times.
Exactly. 8.5 out of 10. 8.5.
Yeah.
So not.
People are really mad about the darkness.
Well, actually, yeah. Let's see what the actual feedback is. There are 66. Excellent. If anybody breaks that number, like they're going to be the one who ruins.
No one does.
ruins the Order 66 number. So, 66 user reviews. Let's just dive in real quick. 10 out of 10. Fantastic exploration of the Mandalorian lore. Posey fan. 8 out of 10. Grogu is starting to become more than just a cute tag-along character. I will say that. I will agree with that, and I will say that.
Isn't that a positive
No,
though? Is that a positive or a negative?
No, I actually think that's positive. So, says he had to become more independent in this episode to rescue his dad. I'm glad the writers are going this route. So positive for Posey fans. So I'm not really sure where the negative comes from, but I will agree with that, and that Grogu was given more freedom in this episode, which was pleasant to see. The ability to navigate, fly back, although again probably used R5 for a bit of that, and his sort of wherewithal to be relatively stealthy, although he's small, to get in and out of the situation. Yeah, it was nice to see. I will agree with that. 9 out of 10, getting somewhere. No rating. A weak Mando, a grimacing Grogu, and the Morlocks. First sentence says disappointing. That is the word. Last of it says pacing was off. Mando was a wuss in this for no apparent reason. I mean, he was kind of.
Was he?
He was ambushed by a like a booby trap. I mean, I don't know what you kind of expect him to do there.
I'm not.
It says, "Where is this going?"
I mean, he looked weak with the Darksaber. I will say that. Like I was, You would think that he would be getting better with it by now, and it doesn't seem to be getting better.
Well, when's he going to practice? I doubt he's, Daniel's
He was just laboring with it quite a bit.
Daniel's
Yeah,
sonning
I don't
out,
know.
practicing with it in his free time. Like, I don't think that's a thing.
When else do you get better with a weapon?
When you get to use it, I mean, who's he using the Darksaber on? He's not using it on nobody.
Well, practice with it. Like do your forms.
He's
I
not
don't know.
a Jedi. Right? He's not Rey on
Grogu
Oct.
can
He's not
teach him.
Rey on Oct 2 swinging the saber around like.
Grow. Cutting rocks. Cutting all those rocks.
I mean, he's not a Jedi. So I wouldn't expect him to want to train with the weapon. Like it's mystical to him, right? Like I don't know. He does not see the same pizzazz in it that others do, right? Like he doesn't know, like he knows what it is now, but he didn't know why it was important before. Grogu making faces like a pouty child took me out of the story. So it says, where is this going? What is the conflict or the mission? I'm starting to not care. 2 episodes in, and this person is starting to not care. Couldn't even be bothered to put a number though to it.
I'm kind of concerned. Like I'm confused by that comment though. Like it's pretty obvious what the conflict is,
and the direction that it's going.
He wanted to redeem himself. He got Bo-Katan's help in this episode because he ran into trouble. Grogu's building character. I don't know. Seems like they're moving in a direction very specifically.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the thing too. There are going to be people who find fault in every single thing that gets put out, and these people will never be satisfied with anything. I mean, if the mythosaur doesn't get you kind of happy in your pants, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what will, And so that's just sad. 7 out of 10, better than the last, but the Force is still not strong. 8 out of 10, Grogu is the GOAT. Oh, here we go. I think I found, oh my goodness. There's a 1 out of 10, blinded by lore. 5 out of 10, pretty, but lazy and predictable. Mythosaurus, rubber ducky. Oh my goodness. There are actually a lot of negative. 1 out of 10. Wow, what an exciting, in air quotes, episodes. Say that the child is the only thing worth watching in this continued destruction of Star Wars. Wow. Hold on a second. All right. Remove the child and his adventure in this episode, and what do you have? You have the Mando going through
a dead Mando.
Well, right. You have the Mando going through an entire episode to get wet. What kind of lame writing and plot is this? Okay. So it says, let's not forget.
It's the lore of Mandalore.
Yeah, so let's not forget how these people do not know how to follow a timeline. Bo is in her 20s. In the Clone Wars, the show is taking place roughly 40 years later. No, it's not. It's taking place 25 years.
No, that's too
25 years
long.
later. Because, A New Hope is 19 0 BBY, right? So 19 years.
Yeah.
And then we're 5 years. And then 5 years, so that's 10. So it's 29 years, so 30 years. So she's like 50-ish. She isn't 60. Anyways, Bo should be...
People age differently in the Star Wars universe because it's fiction.
Bo should be at least 60 and not younger like this woman playing her. I don't even know...
I love how they're like this woman playing her. It's the same person that played her in the freaking Clone Wars. It's the same voice.
See, these are the ruining a good show. 4 out of 10. Like, these are the rabbit holes that I can't find myself going down, because half the people that I'm sure get on maybe some are bot accounts, but you start going down the rabbit hole of people who, I don't know if they have certain expectations. They don't understand the backstory, right? So if you didn't watch all of the Clone Wars, if you didn't watch, I guess, probably certain parts of Rebels, because I know she's in it, and I know she comes back with that, in Rebels. Maybe you don't understand the backstory and kind of the direction of everything, but I don't know how you can have, I don't know how you have that kind of viewpoint on especially on this episode, right? Like 2 out of 10. Thank you for rescuing me. Dear Lord, Mando is no longer the hero. Another nail in the.
I thought he was pretty. I thought he took care of business in episode 1 pretty well. So
Oh, here we go. Another nail in the coffin of the franchise is another female is now the alpha male. Next, Disney will be changing it to Mandalorian.
Do they know?
Jesus.
Do they know? Like, do they watch Clone Wars? Do they know that Bo-Katan was a member of the royal family and truly is a badass? Like,
No, they don't.
Yeah.
There's another one, 3 out of 10. We finally got rid of toxic masculinity. So now we're going down that rabbit hole that we're not really going to touch because, well, I don't agree with that. Because again,
the more you talk about it, the more power they have. We'll just just ignore them. Just ignore
go
them.
back and watch the Clone Wars, and see how badass Bo-Katan is in the series, and then come back and say that.
I mean, did they not see her being a badass last season when she came to the boat to also save Mando? I guess it was probably the same feedback on the reviews, right?
Probably, and that's the thing. Like Mando can't. You have to have peril for a main character, and there's still a level of plot armor, right? With Mando, of course, but he's not going to be the savior. He shouldn't be the savior in every episode.
Here's the other thing, and I usually don't complain about I don't usually compare things to the sequel trilogy a whole lot, but the fact that everybody complained that Rey was too good at everything, but they're expecting Mando to be so good at everything, and he's not, and that's okay. It's amazing that we are still having the same argument we had during the sequel trilogy, but it's the opposite way.
Right.
So
exactly, and that's the thing too, where to have you can't have it both ways. Either you're upset that somebody who should have no business understanding these skills is immediately good at them, right? Or you have somebody who, again, doesn't have a fully set of developed skills, who is honing them, right? You can't have it both ways. Either one upset.
Well, not just that, but like one of them has been to the planet before in this episode. One person had been to the planet. So she was the most capable and most prepared walking into what she was walking into. Man had no clue what he was walking into. Got ambushed twice.
Like he should have. Like you should have.
Yeah.
Right? Like anybody who is unfamiliar with the planet. Like that's.
And he didn't expect anyone to be there, period.
Right. Exactly. I'm not gonna. I don't think we should validate those comments.
There's no more to say. It's just.
But
it's just ridiculous.
So yeah. I mean, overall, it was an excellent episode. A lot of good components, and I mean, there's not much else to say about it. So I'm really excited to see where they go from here. Right. So. Picking back up in the mine, and then I'm actually really curious to see where episode 3 goes after this, because I mean, they got to go rally the troops, I suppose.
Yeah.
Hey guys, we saw Mike in the mines, and I don't know, we should all kind of team up.
I will say I don't think anyone else should take that Creed in water anymore. I feel like it's a bad idea. Bad omen.
He's the last and final.
Keep being interrupted. Just keep getting interrupted, and there's big creatures that are unexpected to show up.
Yeah. Maybe don't bathe in the living waters anymore.
Oh boy.
Anything else you want to talk about as far as episode 2 is concerned?
No, I think I'm good on everything. We covered a lot.
Yeah. So with that, we're going to bring this episode to a close. We want to thank you all for listening. If you do enjoy the content, please do share, like, rate, subscribe, etc. It really does help the show out, and we do appreciate it. For fandoms outside of Star Wars, be sure to check out our friends over at the on the Galactic Dads podcast. They can be found at Galactic Dads on all podcast platforms. There we go, crushing the outro. But as for us, we're going to make the jump to hyperspace. So for Jedi John, I'm Obi Sean, and until next time,
May the Force be with you.
Force